In this video, we're going to install a NavTV kit on a 911 NavTV. It just adds cameras. Their website is really pretty intuitive. And you just go through and you select which car you have. And then it gives you these different kits depending on what PCM model you have. Then you've got a number of different camera options. Their service on the phone is just absolutely fantastic. They've really explained almost everything that I think I need to know. That's their website, and here's what you get in the boxes. So you get a hole saw. It's a metal housing, aluminum backing. It's very slim and curvy. So you get a plug in the middle here, obviously for removing the bumpers. All right, here is the brain box and wiring kit for the actual unit. So you get this, which is the brain box. It's got a bunch of labeled plugs on it. If you've installed an alarm system or anything, it's very, very similar. It has instructions that are kind of intimidating, but I find that with anything complicated, if you just follow each step and kind of focus on each step and don't move forward until you complete that step, then like anything else, it becomes pretty basic. Bag of wires. So here's the intimidating part about this particular one. You can buy the kit that doesn't have dynamic lines, and you don't have to crack open the radio. For this one, you have to crack open the radio to install this new board and these new ribbon cables, or these new ribbon cables. So that's all that you get. Let's jump to the NavTV headquarters in Coral Springs, Florida. We've got a little quick tour. We'll show you where this was actually made. Got a special treat today. We're here with Tiago from NavTV, and he's going to give us a tour of how they print their circuit boards and create what we're going to install on the car. So take it away.
These are our SMT machines. So we build pretty much 95% of the products we build over here in Coral Springs, Florida. So everything starts over here. We have this is the paste, the solid paste machine. The bare board comes through it.
Okay.
Machine put the paste, the solid paste over here.
Okay.
Slides to the SMT machine. As you can see, you have all the components, the capacitors, the resistors, everything over here.
And is all of this automatic?
Yes.
As you program it,
Exactly.
it kind of staples it in?
Exactly. It just puts it right on top of the board.
Okay.
And then the board, once it's done, we slide to the oven. We have two SMT machines because sometimes we run like big boards.
Okay.
And then it goes to the oven.
Right here, this is what melts all the solder in place?
Exactly.
And holds everything?
Right. And then this is one of our products.
So that's after it's been through the boards and the oven?
Right, exactly. And then goes to the inspection.
Okay.
And then after here, they program the boards, they test all the boards. We have like different radios, as you can see, Chevy. We have Ford, we have over here on the side, we have Porsche right there.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Do you have what's in
Porsche right there?
Do you have the one that's in mind?
That's the PCM3. I don't have right here.
Okay.
But that's pretty much
and
it.
So you hook them up and actually test each one of them?
Yes. Every single part that we build, we test in house before it goes to the stock room, and after that, out the door. So our customer, we have almost 5,000 dealers all over the country. So
no break.
Wanna go to the stock room real fast over here?
Yeah, for sure. So this is all finished
stuff?
This
is all finished parts.
So my parts would come right off of this shelf?
Right. Your part will be, we have two different parts for your car, right? We have one that will give you dynamic lines,
yep,
and one that doesn't give you dynamic lines. So this is pretty much all the boards we build in-house, waiting for testing, and here are the final products.
Is this the little box that would mount up behind the radio?
Here are more stock parts.
That's pretty neat.
And then here are all the finished products.
So these are all boxed, ready to pull and ship?
Yep. And then once it's done, go to the shipping department.
I get an even better price because I don't have to pay shipping, right?
Right.
Or you don't have to pay shipping.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. So you also do dash cams?
Dash cams.
I saw that out front in your office.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular camera. Blackfield, that's one of the best cameras in the market.
That's pretty neat. And then back in through here, and just show me the hallway again. That way, because we stopped filming.
Alright, here's our shipping department. Yep. Those are all the products that we sell. We sell some brochures for marketing.
In with the box?
Yes, exactly. And like I said, we're going through the construction, so it's a little mess right now. But R&D, accounting department, we have the engineering department over here.
So is this where the stuff is actually created? Like he's actually, see a little guy in there?
Yeah, this is our software engineer. Here's the hardware engineer.
Holy cow, it's like a mad scientist office. This is really neat.
Yeah.
And then this is your...
And that's pretty much it. That's the owner of NavTV office.
Ooh, he's got a fancy couch in there. And reception. All right, very cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we are enough. So here's our sales and tech support one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, sales and tech department.
All taking phone calls and helping people. Do a lot of people do their own installation?
I would say 5%.
Oh, so not
retail.
Yeah.
Okay.
We serve pretty much shops.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is remove the front bumper. This car has a radiator installed, and the camera's going to go right here. Hopefully it'll be in a good spot. Here's the nut to make sure that I'm good on the back side, which I am. That's going to tighten down fine. I'm dead center, and I just want to make sure that I have enough overhang here in the front. All right, I'm just going to wash this off and then go ahead and install the camera. All right, I'm going to take a pair of pliers and tighten this down just a little bit, and then I'm going to put a little bit of silicone on there to keep it from backing out, because I never ever want to go in here and fool with it. Here's what I did with the wiring. You can see I wrapped it with this wire loom stuff. I've got plenty of this, and that'll prevent any kind of chafing. It comes right up over the bumper. I zip tied it with, through the foam by poking some holes in it, and then it runs right through. Be sure to keep it under the headlight hole, and you can see it's right there, and then it comes up here, and I'll wrap it all right up in there. So, I sure hope that camera is in the right spot, but the bumper is ready to go back on, and that is really it for mounting the front camera on a 911 with a front radiator. Now, if you did not have the front radiator, you would likely need to put it in there somewhere, and then you would wire it a little bit differently, because you would want the plug end of this wire to be all the way out here so that you could remove the bumper. In this case, I don't need to do that. I can put the plug end right up in there. Bumper's back on, camera is mounted, looks great, exactly the way it should. To be seen if the angle's right, but I think it'll be fine. We'll see though. You can't see it at all from up top. So I took just an electrician's snake and poked it through that hole that was already there that I had sealed up. And as you can see, it is right here, right there. So what I'm going to do is tape this to it, and I'm going to put a little taper wedge in there. I'll show you what I mean, and then pull it through. So what I did was cut a little wedge out of a piece of wood. Wood's got a little sealant on it, but and what I'll do is position this on the snake right here, like this, and then position this plug, wherever it is, right there, this plug behind it, electrical tape the whole thing up. I'll show it to you in a second, and then it'll pull right through. It's worth the extra effort to do this, otherwise it gets snagged. That's what I've got all taped up. You can see it's a nice taper, and it should pull right through. There's the tape, and here comes the plug. And there we go. Easy peasy. All right, well, now for the rear. This one is pretty straightforward. The camera is going to mount just centered right in between the license plate lights. And while I'm in here, I'm going to do a little maintenance. So here we go. The great debate here is where to run the wire. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the hood here and start exploring. It's pretty obvious running it right up under this carpet. Through here you can actually see right into the car through here, and then I'll run it around the back seat, probably right back in there, and I'll bring it all the way through to here and right up into there. All right, what you're looking at is the back side of the bumper, and the camera will mount right here in between the lights. So it's going to go right here, centered, and then I will zip tie the plug, so this portion here, right over to this harness. And then I'll zip tie everything together so that when you unplug the harness, you can also unplug the camera. Because I have scratched plenty of things with the chuck on my drill, we're gonna put a piece of cardboard here. If I just mark it here and here, and fold it in half, mark here, I get the middle. Pretty simple, right? That's pretty good. Well, there it is, mounted. It is actually really easy to get this thing centered. And if you just look at it from this perspective, you can get it perfectly lined up. So that was easy. I'm going to put a little bead of sealant on the back of this nut, right there, just to make sure it doesn't move and make sure water doesn't get into it. Then I'm going to clean my air filters. I gooped some sealant over the back of the camera there, ran the wires right across here, and then there's the plug right next to the plug for the lights and sensors back here. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now I'll run the wire back to here. Here's how you access from the inside of the car to the basically above the engine compartment, at least on the convertible. So this flap comes up when you put the top up and down. That waffle looking stuff right there is the inside of this panel right here, and the snake comes out right there. And then I'm going to fish the wire up under, I'll tuck it in up under here and run it under here right to where it needs to be, up under the dash. And then from here, you can see right where the flashlight, under that bolt, there are some wires, and those wires actually follow all the way through. And I'll have to move the top, but there is a plug right about under here, right under here, and that plug accesses the inside of the headlight right back here. So in other words, when you shine a light right here, that light comes through just inside, and I can I'll pull this plug out and I'll be able to bring the camera wire right out where this comes, and then zip tie it off to the plug. So basically the snake goes right through the rubber harness that goes out to the headlight or the tail light, and it comes right in on this side right here. You can see it right there, rusty thing. So once again, easier than expected. Well, the wiring for this back camera is done. I put the wrap on it again, taped it off. That's the plug, right next to the plug for everything else. It runs through this wire. There's plenty of room to push this back when the light goes back in. It goes through the boot for the light. Comes right through here. It's tied all nice and neat. Here's just a quick look at what this connector looks like. So you've got the camera and the main harness right next to each other. Bumper's back on. You can tell from that video of the time lapse that getting these taillights perfectly centered is just such a pain in the butt. You got to go back and forth until you get them just right. But anyway, here's what the camera looks like. Right there, perfectly centered. It looks great. Happy with it. I'm glad that I put that clear silicone on it instead of that rubber thing, because it just sealed up perfectly up in there. Anyway, now for the most challenging part of the job, taking that PCM out, and I'll position the camera somehow up above the car since it's convertible and you can watch. I recommend you get a set of these. They're just nylon, you know, wedges and stuff, and these just pop off. I've removed this one before because I installed this phone magnetic thing. I actually epoxied that in right here because this company wants you to screw it to there's two screws, one here and one here, and this one's too far forward and this one's too far back, in my opinion. So I decided to just do my own thing. Just get right in there, right next to it, and I recommend pushing out on the, you know what I mean? So you get in there and you come out. If you go in, you could dent this, whatever it is. I don't even know if it's aluminum, but whatever it is, you could dent it. And then it's a little tricky when you get down to this far. You have to pull the thing out on the up here. And then it kind of lifts up and out like this. There we go. 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's nothing that's obvious about how this comes apart. So I started to try to remove the blue and green ones. They do actually come out, but then I realized that the other ones don't. So it turns out this whole thing just releases. It's one giant plug. Then these things, you press down on this thing right here and pull it out. You need to use 2 hands, but you push down on that and then it'll pull out. Anyway, that's what it looks like down in there. All right, this is a T8, and there are a couple screws on the top here. 1, 2. There are screws on the back. So the back screws are smaller than the front and the top screws. I mean, the bottom screws are smaller than the top. So make a little note. There's 3 across the back here, but I think what I'll do is remove the front first. So there are these clips here on the side. I believe you just push them in. Okay, working on this thing is totally freaks me out. So that one was kind of sticking. God, forcing this thing absolutely freaks me out. So now that it's released, there we go. So now that it's released, there's 2 ribbon cables right here. And I'm pretty sure that they just pop up. Yep, pop up, pop up. There we go. And pop up. All right, so now we can set this aside because we don't use this for anything. Screws in the back here that need to be removed. 1, 2, 3. And then this thing slides apart. There's actually these little tabs right here that show you exactly where it's going to come apart. Now, this is the CD player. We're not going to use that. So we're going to go ahead and pop these 2 up. There we go. Now I can set this aside. So these things they really do just pop off easily, very easily. They want their ribbon cables put in. All right, so it does require a little bit of force. So make sure it's all the way up, which it is. Put it in there, and then press with some authority here. There we go. That's next. So we're going to put this right here. Oh yeah, it just slides right in. It's really a no-brainer. And then you lower this door and it's on. Now we're going to do the HDMI cable. Put it up like this. I think what I'll do is make a crease there. Alright, this gets plugged in right here. This gets plugged in right here. And so they have a slot for this, but honestly I have no idea where this thing goes. It's got to go right here somewhere. So let's see. This goes through here, and this goes through here. Well, it seems like it would. So if I route this under here, here's what I can do. I can route this underneath here. And I can, here's what I'll do. I'll zip tie this to here and this to here. Let me get some zip ties. So I'm going to leave these. I'm going to leave these in there, right? Because I want to create, you know, some kind of support for this board. Let's see, the CD player goes down on top of this. This goes in here, and then this flips over and goes on top like that. So, I'm no electrical engineer, but I do not think that this should touch. And in the photo here, they have you just kind of laying it in there. And that seems crazy to me. I am going to epoxy this thing in here. I'm going to put a dab of epoxy right here. I'm going to put a dab of epoxy right here. And I'm going to put a dab of epoxy right here. And that will hold this thing. I'm also going to put some epoxy here to hold these wires in place. And you know, I might as well put some around here to hold this wire in place. And that will keep this thing from grounding out. Once I put the CD player back in, there's no risk of this touching the bottom of the CD player. Tie right here around this HDMI cable and looped it under the brace for that board down there. And this is, I mean, solid. It's resting against the HDMI cable, and then of course the epoxy has got it in place. It's way down below the plane of the radio, and then I also put a zip tie right there on the back of the fan to take the pressure off of there. So if I didn't break anything, this thing is, you know, in there, really solid. Bumps are not going to affect it, and it's stacked. You know, it looks to me pretty nicely, so it should not run hot or anything. So we'll see. Okay, so let me show you what I did. Working off of these instructions, they want you to solder the wires into here, and that is outside of my area of expertise here. So what I did was I just unwrapped the wire harness and butt connected, and then heat shrink everything. So you're using the red wire from the harness, which attaches right here to the orange and red, and then up here in the brown wire is your ground. And then these two, the blue and white, it's basically the communication system for the car that you're tapping into. Okay, PCM back in. Everything is run over to the dash side, or the driver's side. I want to install it all over here. I changed my mind. Everything will fit right up here. If you can see where the boot is, there's lots of room. There's the boot that comes through the firewall, and right on top of that wire harness, I can go ahead and mount this box. and run everything to it and access it easily without taking any panels out. So here's where we've come. So this HDMI cable goes over to the PCM. It'll plug into the NavTV. This cable, which I have taped up, has the fuse in it. In case I need to get to that, it has the 2 camera leads. They're marked rear and front. And then it has the purple wire, which triggers the backup or the reverse. And then I've taped this wire that goes over to the PCM. So the only 2 wires that go over to the PCM are these. Then the front camera is right here. I've got it bundled. It's ready for power, which I'm going to get from right here. This is where I patched in my radar detector. I'm just going to patch it into the same. It bypasses the fuse. It has its own fuse, but I'll pick up switched power there. And then the negative comes off of this ground right here, which I actually put in right there. You can see it. I drilled that hole and put that screw. It's a nice solid ground and it's isolated from everything else. And I tapped into that. This will be the ground wire for the 2 cameras. Then here is the rear camera, which comes out right here and runs along under the door all the way to the back. And it's labeled also rear. And then of course it has the same. This will hook into the purple wire and this will hook into the ground. And then the infrared thing, I don't know what I did with it, but oh, here it is. So this infrared cable is the only cable left, and it will be coiled in there, and then I'll position this so all I have to do is just, hold the remote like, right here to program the thing. So, took something pretty complicated and we're down to just, some few basic connections. And then there's plenty of room up there to get everything wrapped and tied so we won't have any rattles. So, coming along pretty well. It turns out with my particular car, because it's a manual, the reverse signal doesn't send like the automatic. So you have to tap into a wire for the reverse lights. So here's the harness. Because I tested it, this is the reverse wire right there. It's blue and black. It's got it's blue with a black stripe. And because I really don't want to run another wire, I decided to open up the wire bundle that goes back to the back of the car, and I found it. It is right here, right there. And I tested it, and it does in fact energize positive when the reverse shifter, when the shifter goes into reverse. So the green wire from the kit, which is right there, it's labeled reverse, actually gets wired right into there, and that will cause the reverse camera to come on when the car is in reverse. So there you go. One more thing that'll help in the installation is get yourself some of these. They are stick-on, I'm in a big pack, stick-on zip tie connectors. You just peel the sticky back off, and they've got a place where you can put a zip tie in basically any direction. Anyway, get these because they are basically the only way to get this box, oh, that's backwards, to zip tie to anything. I also put foam on all 4 corners, so whatever, it doesn't really even have to, it's on there, it's not going to go anywhere, but this way you're not affecting the heat of the unit. You don't want to really wrap it, but you want to let heat escape. But you do need to be aware the sides are slightly sharp, so if they're going to chafe against anything, best to just be safe, because hopefully once you put this up there, it'll be the last time you put it up there. One more thing to get is friction tape. This stuff is like a cloth tape. It's super sticky, and it is basically the same stuff that the factory uses to wrap wires, and it helps keep them quiet. So get yourself some of that. Okay, here we are, buttoned back up. Everything is put back. It's nice and clean. You can see right here, the only indication that something's going on in here is right here. That's where I tapped into the power. And then right here is the infrared that I just dangled there. You can easily move it out of the way if you need to get to those fuses, but in case there's any reprogramming that you need to do, you want to be able to access that. And then it's kind of hard to see, but the unit is just right up in there, zip tied in place. It's really secure. There's no rattles. So really just put this right back and we're good. We are done. Very exciting. All right, here's the rear camera. And here's the front. The final product. I am super happy. Got reversed. Super clear image. Dynamic lines are working. If I want to force the front camera, I just hit Navi, and we've got front camera. You can see the pavement. This right here is actually the paint on my car, so just below this is the front splitter. All right, so I'm here in a parking lot, and let's go ahead and kind of test it out here. I can totally see everything as I'm backing up. It's fantastic. Let's go ahead and pull into a spot here. So if I want to see the front, I just hit Navi, and as I pull in, I can totally see the curb right there. Get right up to it, and couldn't ask for more. I mean, that's fantastic. Put it in reverse, can easily see what's behind me. If I was parallel parking, I could swap back and forth between front and rear, just depending on whether I'm in reverse or not and the front camera's forced. If I want to get rid of the front camera, just hit car or info or Navi. If I want to navigate, I got to hit Navi one more time. But couldn't be happier. Really great system. I can clearly see the curb right there. Perfect. All right, well, there you have it. Installation complete. I'm really happy. Everything's working. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I would totally do this installation again, even though at times it got a little frustrating, but I accomplished what I wanted, which was a reverse camera that is functional with dynamic lines and looks factory. The front camera is just kind of an added bonus, so I'm sure I'll use it, but primarily the thing that I really wanted to accomplish was a rear camera. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe.